You Toby?
I'm Tobias. You must be Stephen.
Call me Stevie. Everyone does.
Nice to meet you, Stephen.
Funny. You don't look like your boys. I picture you different. You know, like the radio guys. When I see their picture, I'm like, whoa, it's weird. You own this place or something?
I do?
Cool.
What's in the bag, Stephen?
Almost forgot. Mom says that you get my head if it wasn't screwed on. It was right where you said it would be. Back of the barn, left, stall, left, on the... How'd you know, Grandpa? Anyway.
I didn't.
So, is it worth anything?
It's priceless.
Dang it! I thought I'd make a few bucks.
Stephen, it's an ironic term. It's very, very bad.
Why would Gramps bury a bottle in the barn? Why would you want to buy it?
Well, I'm hoping that as this story that I'm attempting to tell you unfolds, that your questions will be answered in full. May I continue, Master Stephen?
His name was Jack Angus, and he arrived from Scotland shortly after the war, with nothing more than a pocket full of guineas and a dream. Being from the Highlands, it said that Jack had whiskey in his veins, so his dream was simple, to create the finest Scotch whiskey the world had ever seen, and share it with the people in this new land. Jack settled in this isolated place because it reminded him of the beauty of Scotland, that and his extreme dislike of people and the things that they stood for. He named this place Angus Bog. Jack Angus revered nature and the old ways. Lore and swords had always suited him better than pubs and automobiles ever could. He would walk for hours, taking in the beauty of the meadows and the woods that surrounded his bog. To him, it was a wee piece of heaven. Jack was also blessed with martial prowess. Swordplay and the fighting arts were part of his daily routine, and he was not above giving any man, woman, or child a stout thrashing should they deserve one. He toiled without rest, and with no money for modern distilling equipment, he had no choice but to make his spirits the old-fashioned way. The work was hard, and the batches were small, but this didn't bother Jack. This was a connection to his past, an opportunity to bring the blood of Scotland to a new land and people, an opportunity for greatness. There was just one problem. His whiskey tasted like shite. Literal shite. His bog was not full of fresh, clean-moving water like the lochs or the Highlands, but rather stagnant slough water where the animals went to wash and relieve themselves. His whiskey was nothing more than a fine blend of various animal feces, including geese, muskrats, moose, and likely a wee bit of his own. Jack was distraught. His whiskey was bad, and he knew it. All of his hard work to create the finest whiskey to ever burn its way down a man's throat had been for naught. Out of desperation, Jack Angus did what any reasonable man would do. He sold his soul to the devil. I mean, what would you do?
What would you do?
Oh, I call the guy, probably,
Jack returned the following morning to find his old family incantation had worked. His dark prayer had been answered. The magical inscription on that paper now gave him the ability to turn the water from any corpse-ridden cesspool into the perfect whiskey every time. The worm had turned for Jack Angus. This was his time. He replaced his old attire and began selling his whiskey throughout the county. His popularity grew, and rumors of the magical properties of his whiskey spread like wildfire. The weak claimed that it made them strong. The shy said that it gave them a voice, and the ugly claimed that it made them beautiful, especially to those who also drank the magical elixir. Business was booming, and the people loved him. The hilariously cruel nicknames like Haggis Face and Sheep Fucker had fallen silent, only to be replaced with a single respectable moniker, Black Jack Angus. But not everyone was thrilled with Black Jack's sudden success. Jimmy and Tommy Cullen were third-generation Irish. Their grandfather emigrated from the Emerald Isle during the Great Potato Famine and began farming in the Westerdales. To supplement his income, he made rotgut, which he sold to the local farmers. It was a hit and quickly became the new family business. In addition to being successful bootleggers, they were also Pentecostal preachers. They had converted years prior and were the first and only snake handlers in the county, with a winning conversion record of 18-0. That was until the death of their youngest brother, Paddy, in the summer of '57. You see, Paddy could speak in tongues, and during a particularly intense sermon, he was bitten on his leg by a viper. Unfortunately for Paddy, the excited delirium that he was experiencing from the snake venom coursing through his veins was indistinguishable from the gibberish and feverish dancing that normally accompanied possession by the Holy Spirit. Instead of medical attention, he only received cheers and encouragement to dance faster, which in turn accelerated the venom's effects. After that, the popularity of snake handling waned, and they went back to preaching plain old fire and brimstone to dwindling crowds. The sales of their Irish whiskey had also suffered following Paddy's death, and now with the introduction of Black Jack Angus's Scotch whiskey in their county, they were in dire straits. Something had to be done. Black Jack never owned a vehicle. Every week he walked the same route, hand-delivering his whiskey to all his customers. He took great pride in this. But unfortunately for him, this also made him an easy target.
Nice day for a stroll. Or it was. Where are you headed, Angus? Looks to me like you're headed into town to peddle some of that swamp water of yours. I thought I made myself clear. There's to be no more Scotch in my county. What's the matter? You got haggis in your ears, Boyle. I'm speaking to you. Say something.
I curse ye.
You curtsy. I bet you do, Haggis. You and all your dress-wearing kinsmen. He said that. You curse me? You hillbilly fuck. I curse you. Me and Oliver Winchester.
Blackjack okay?
No, Stephen. Blackjack was not okay. Blackjack was dead.
What now, Tommy? I tell you what now, brother. We all grab a souvenir here, and we never speak about this again. Do I make myself clear?
Each man took a bottle of Angus Bog whiskey as a trophy and went about their business. Without Jack Angus around, things soon went back to normal. The Cullen brothers were once again the #1 bootleggers in the county, and Black Jack Angus became nothing more than a distant memory. It wasn't until the months had turned into years that the name Black Jack Angus cut its way back into their minds. It wasn't until then that his final words
I curse ye.
came into being, like locusts emerging from the dirt when the conditions are just right. And over the next few months, everyone involved in the killing of Black Jack Angus began to die under very strange circumstances. As the orchestrators of this skullduggery, the Cullen brothers were the first to die. Jimmy was the weaker of the two, and never had much of a stomach for conflict. The truth was that the guilt had been eating away at Jimmy ever since the murder of Black Jack. He had become an old man before his time and was not well. The cancer of worry had turned his guts and mind into porridge. Jimmy tried many times to end his own suffering, but every time he failed. His attempts thwarted by the curse. But in the end, little Jimmy Cullen finally found a way. Madness had taken Jimmy to a place that few will ever see, and over a span of weeks, he slowly consumed his own body, piece by piece, starting with his fingers and toes. What he wasn't able to finish, the rats and maggots polished off. Tommy was indifferent to the death of his brother. From the moment Jimmy decided to hide his Irish accent in order to fit in, he considered him an all-round piece of shite. Who do you think knocked out his teeth? Everyone just assumed that the God-fearing Tommy Cullen had died peacefully in his favourite armchair while enjoying a dram after a good meal. But that couldn't have been further from the truth. Tommy died writhing around on the floor in agony. What was first thought to be a serious case of indigestion was something far more insidious. When the autopsy was performed, it was said that Tommy's stomach resembled a giant haggis stuffed with worms. His final meal had caused it to rupture, allowing the seething mass to spill into his body cavity, killing him in a most unpleasant way. Timmy Walsh was next. You see, Timmy had survived a childhood bout of polio, giving him extremely weak legs. He was also a hopeless drunkard. This was not a good mix. One day, while he was working on an old set of broken harrows, the curse found its mark. The harrows had pierced every organ in Timmy Walsh's body, killing him instantly. Ironically, his thin legs fell between all the tines and were completely undamaged.
Blackjack killed all these people? Why?
Isn't it obvious? Vengeance! Those animals, those jealous little men, they took what didn't belong to them.
Why are you telling me this?
Will there be anything else tonight, sir?
No, lad. You better get home to that pretty young wife of yours before she tans her hide.
Have a good evening, Mr. Angus.
Why, Stephen, you look like someone just walked over your grave.
Mr. Angus?
Don't worry, Stephen. I'm no ghost. I'm just a relative who wants back what belongs to my family. You can understand that, can't you, Stephen?
I better be going.
Does the name Ronald O'Connor mean anything to you?
That's Grandpa's name.
Yes, it was.
He was a follower and a reluctant participant, but that doesn't change the fact that Ronald O'Connor pulled that trigger and stole from the dead. Ronald wasn't a smart man, but he realized something that the others hadn't. When Blackjack uttered those words, it wasn't the men he had cursed, 'twas the whiskey. After that, anyone who came into contact with those bottles became infected. Being scared and not knowing what else to do, he buried his bottle in the barn, hoping to free himself of the curse. But it didn't work. In the end, the curse got Ronald O'Connor just as it did all the others.
Dang it.
I like you, Stephen, and I truly wish things were different. But they aren't. You brought home the last bottle, and for that I'm grateful. Because you touched it? Well, I'm sorry. Don't forget your money. Godspeed, Stephen O'Connor.
Dang it.